welcome to the Deep Dive. You're here because, well, you want to get smart about complex topics fast, no fluff.
And that's what we do.
Today, we're diving into something pretty fascinating. The connection between human creativity, that state we call flow,
Yeah.
and artificial intelligence.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. And our guide for this is Steven Kotler, the peak performance expert. We're drawing from a really recent conversation with him.
So fresh insights. Good. Where does Kotler start with AI? Is it just about speed?
Not just speed, no. His point is that AI could actually, elevate our creative abilities, amplify them.
Amplify, okay. How?
Well, he talks about great writing, for instance. It's often like 90% what you expect, then there's that crucial 10%, the surprise.
The originality spark?
Exactly, and that 10%, that's tricky for current AI, for the large language models, the LLMs.
Right, because they're built on predicting the most likely thing, the average outcome, based on tons of data, not necessarily the weird, brilliant outlier.
Precisely. They excel at probabilistic outputs, finding the average.
But Kotler mentioned you can tweak them.
Right.
Make them more random.
You can. You can adjust the parameters to get more fanciful outputs, as he puts it. Less predictable.
But maybe less targeted than human surprise.
Potentially, yeah. It's a balance. But he personally uses AI quite a bit, says it helps him think, access knowledge way faster than just Googling around.
So it's like a cognitive tool, augmenting his own process.
That's the idea. It handles some of the legwork, the predictable bits, freeing him up for that innovative 10%.
Okay, so AI as a superpowered research assistant maybe, helping us but not quite replacing that unique human inventive step.
Not yet, anyway. And this brings up a key distinction he makes. Pattern recognition versus lateral thinking.
Okay, define those for us in this context.
Sure. Pattern recognition is seeing connections between similar things, like AI is brilliant at this.
Makes sense, finding correlations in data.
Right. But lateral thinking, that's about connecting unlike things, seemingly disparate ideas. That's where a lot of human innovation comes from.
Divergent thinking, going off the beaten path.
Exactly. Most AIs right now, they're convergent thinkers. They follow existing patterns to a solution.
So AI is great at navigating the known roads, but lateral thinking builds new ones. Does Kotler think AI will ever get there? Achieve human-level creativity?
He leans towards yes, actually. Across different fields, it seems likely, eventually.
Wow.
But he thinks maybe a more interesting question is, will AI be more creative on its own or working with us? Collaboration versus independence.
Good question. Does he have any examples?
He mentioned a study with an AI physician. On its own, it hit like 75% accuracy in diagnosis.
Okay.
With a human doctor assisting, it went up to 80%.
Better together.
But here's the twist. For diagnostic tasks specifically, which are pretty convergent, pattern-based, the AI alone reached 95% accuracy.
Whoa. So for certain kinds of tasks, the human partner actually hindered it.
Seems like it. For that very specific convergent task. Fascinating, isn't it? Shows AI's potential in well-defined areas.
Definitely. Okay, so that's the AI angle. Let's switch gears to the human side. How do we optimize our creativity? Let's talk flow.
Right. Flow. The Flow Research Collective, Kotler's group, defines it as that state of, total immersion, losing track of time, losing your sense of self, just being fully absorbed in what you're doing.
Peak consciousness.
Yeah.
And creativity in that context.
Defined as making something that's both novel, new, and useful. The useful part is key. It implies you actually implement it, take a risk.
It's not just daydreaming. It has to land somewhere.
Exactly. And the impact of flow. It's huge. Not small gains.
What kind of numbers are we talking?
Well, McKinsey did studies with CEOs. They saw productivity jumps of up to 500% in flow.
500%.
Yeah. And the Flow Genome Project, they found creativity increased on average by 700% for people in flow.
700? That's almost unbelievable.
It's massive. They even broke creativity down into 8 types, and each one gets a boost of like 40 to 60% in flow.
So flow isn't just feeling good. It's a measurable performance state. And we can learn to access it more reliably.
That's the key shift. It used to be seen as kind of random. Maybe you get lucky. Old psychological methods weren't great.
Right.
But now, with targeted training, like the Collective's Zero to Dangerous program, they're seeing a 73.8% average increase in time participants spend in flow. It's becoming reliable, repeatable.
That's a game changer. And technology helps here too.
Absolutely. These consciousness-raising technologies are popping up. Meditation apps, sure, but also things like portable EEG. Vital Neuro is one he mentioned.
EG, so you can actually see brain activity related to flow.
We can now, yes. We found neural markers for flow. Used to need a massive fMRI machine, but now portable EEG can pick them up. That's a big leap.
So you could potentially track your own brain waves and see when you're getting close to flow.
That's the direction things are heading. Kotler even imagines having like a personal AI, a Jarvis.
Like Iron Man's AI.
Kind of. An AI that constantly monitors you and tweaks your environment, the music, the difficulty of your task to keep you right in that flow channel.
Wow. Continuously optimizing for peak state. That's quite a future.
It is, but there's a potential downside to making everything perfectly optimized, maybe too easy, which brings up the Universe 25 experiment.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
Yeah.
The rat utopia experiment. Didn't end well, did it?
Not at all. They had everything they needed: food, water, space, no predators, a perfect environment.
And they basically just gave up, lost purpose, died out.
Pretty much. Apathy, social breakdown, it collapsed. Kotler uses it as a cautionary tale. If AI makes everything effortless, removes all challenge, what happens to our drive, our creativity?
That need for struggle seems important.
Crucial. It ties into the challenge skills balance needed for flow. The sweet spot is when the challenge is just slightly higher than your current skill level.
How much higher?
Around 4 or 5%, they estimate. Enough to stretch you, but not so much you get overwhelmed or anxious.
So if real life becomes too easy thanks to AI, might people just retreat into virtual worlds that can offer that perfect 4% challenge constantly?
It's a possibility Kotler raises. Could the ultimate singularity be when VR gets so good, so perfectly calibrated for flow and reward, that we just choose to live there?
A sobering thought. Okay, let's shift again. Another factor Kotler stresses for creativity, maybe a surprising one, is loneliness.
Yeah, it sounds counterintuitive maybe, but creative work, especially deep work, can be incredibly isolating.
Staring at a blank page or screen for hours.
Right. And he's seen it even with super successful creatives. Deep loneliness. And that loneliness, it actually hurts creativity. It can dampen cognitive function too.
So being isolated isn't good for the muse.
Definitely not. Which is why building community is so important. It's not a nice to have for creatives. He argues it's essential.
And this led him to create the Alliance.
Exactly. It's this 8-month program, sort of a mix between a think tank and a mastermind group, specifically for high-level creatives.
What does it involve?
It has live events, weekly training cycles focusing on flow, the neuroscience behind creativity, using AI tools, and a cohort, about 100 people.
The community aspect for cross-pollination.
Yeah, breaking that isolation,
Yeah.
fostering collaboration, accountability, helping people actually finish their big projects. Masterworks, he calls them.
Because finishing is hard. Editing, publishing, promoting.
All those hurdles. The Alliance aims to provide support through that whole process, leveraging the collective knowledge. Even top performers struggle with isolation's impact on getting things done.
Makes sense. Okay, let's go deeper into the brain science now, the neuroscience of creativity itself.
Right. This is super interesting because it shows creativity isn't just magic, it's trainable. It has a biological basis.
Some mechanics we can understand.
And get this, the brain differences between, say, men and women, microscopically small compared to the differences between highly creative brains and less creative ones.
Wow, so creativity sculpts the brain in significant ways.
Yeah.
What are those differences?
A key one is how different brain networks interact. You've got the executive attention network that's for focus,
Okay.
and the default mode network that's more mind-wandering, imagination, connecting disparate ideas. Usually they work in opposition, focus or daydream.
One or the other.
But in highly creative brains, they show more co-activation, they work together more effectively, and there's another network, the salience network, that acts like a quick switch between them.
More flexible integration.
Exactly. And flow states seem to boost this communication, this flexibility, while also quieting down brain areas that aren't needed for the task. Efficiency.
Fascinating. What about brain chemicals, neurotransmitters?
Key players are dopamine and norepinephrine. Dopamine gives you focus, makes things feel rewarding, drives that aha moment when you link patterns.
The reward chemical.
Yep. And norepinephrine sharpens attention, adds excitement, helps with pattern recognition too. Then there's anandamide.
A bliss molecule. Yeah. Part of the endocannabinoid system.
That's the one. It seems to amplify lateral thinking, that ability to make those remote connections.
Okay. And the feeling in flow, like losing yourself, time warping. That's brain stuff too.
Totally. The brain's basically making efficiency trade-offs. It dials down activity in the prefrontal cortex areas responsible for self-awareness and time perception to free up resources for the main task.
Like shutting down background apps on your phone.
Good analogy. And there's a specific brain region, the anterior cingulate cortex, the ACC, that's involved in deciding between familiar patterns and novel lateral leaps.
And anxiety affects this ACC.
Yeah, anxiety tends to bias the ACC towards the safe, known solution, the tried and true path, which, can stifle creativity.
So managing anxiety is key for opening up creative possibilities. This ties into mindsets, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Things like an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset.
Yeah.
They aren't just vague ideas. They have neurological footprints.
You can train them.
You can. Through conscious effort, reframing, environmental input, a scarcity or fear mindset activates that ACC bias towards safe options. Kills divergence.
So we need to be aware of our default mindset. And biases too.
Definitely. Cognitive biases, recency bias, familiarity, negativity bias, they cloud our judgment and limit creativity. We need to spot them and train ourselves down from them.
Could AI help with spotting our own biases?
Kotler thinks so. Imagine AI analyzing your conversations, your writing, pointing out patterns you miss. Hey, you seem overly focused on recent data here.
An objective mirror. Interesting. He distinguishes mindsets from frames too.
Yeah, frames are more like temporary perspectives on a specific situation. Mindsets are more durable, underlying beliefs. Building an abundance mindset takes consistent reframing work over time.
Got it. So bringing this all together, Kotler trains people, big organizations too, right?
Yeah.
What are the core principles for actually training peak performance and flow?
He works with top performers, major companies. Yeah, it often starts with the peak performance basics, non-negotiables.
Like what?
Sleep. Getting enough quality sleep is huge. Then nervous system regulation. Simple stuff often. Gratitude lists, reading fiction, breath work, walks in nature, exercise, even sauna use, calming the system.
Setting the foundation.
Exactly. Then it's about understanding and using the known flow triggers. There are 28 identified so far.
28. Wow.
Yeah, 12 are individual triggers, things you can control yourself. 16 are group triggers related to team dynamics, intentionally weaving those into your work and life.
And remembering flow isn't constant. It's a cycle.
Crucial point. It's not on-off. It's a 4-stage cycle. Struggle, release, flow, recovery.
Struggle first. That sounds bad.
It feels effortful, but it's vital. That's when you're loading your brain with information, wrestling with the problem. You need that before the breakthrough.
Then release.
Yeah, you have to step away, take a walk, do something low cognitive, let your subconscious work. That's often when the insights pop. Then comes flow, then recovery.
So you can't just force flow by struggling harder. You need the release phase.
Absolutely. He mentions simple habits, like for writers, aiming for just one finished page per day. Consistent effort, followed by stepping away, respects that cycle.
Instead of trying to write a whole chapter in one frantic burst.
Right. Consistency over intensity often wins for creativity.
Yeah. Okay, one last technical bit. Brainwaves. You mentioned EEG. Where does flow happen in terms of brainwaves?
It tends to occur right on the border between alpha and theta waves.
Alpha is like relaxed, daydreamy state.
Yeah, relaxed wakefulness.
Yeah.
And theta is deeper, you see it in REM sleep, but also during intense internal focus. Flow lives on that edge.
And the aha moments.
Those often show up as a burst of very fast gamma waves linked with theta activity, that signature of insight.
Which is why Kotler suggested that bed-to-desk idea.
Potentially, yeah. When you first wake up, your brain is often still in a strong alpha state. Moving right into creative work might help you slip across that alpha-theta border into flow more easily, capitalizing on that natural brain state.
Fascinating stuff. This whole conversation, it really paints a picture of how human creativity, flow, and AI might co-evolve. It's complex, but also kind of exciting.
Definitely. And understanding the neuroscience isn't just academic. It gives you actual levers you can pull to improve your own performance and innovation. Actionable insights.
And the reminder about community, about not doing it alone. That feels really important too, especially for creative work, tackling that isolation.
Absolutely critical. Based on Kotler's work with the Alliance, it's fundamental.
So if you want to explore this more, Steven Kotler's Flow Alliance is at www.flowalliance.co. That's flowalliance.co.
And his personal site, just tons of resources there, is www.stevenkotler.com.
Okay, final thought to leave you with. Think about your own day, your own work. How could you consciously bring in just one flow trigger?
Or maybe, how could you start noticing one cognitive bias that might be holding back your most innovative thinking? What small shift could you make today?
Good questions. Now, if this deep dive sparks something for you, help others find it. Click like and subscribe to Unlock Your Mind podcast for more explorations like this.